Sony has announced that this week the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita stores that were originally going to be shut down on August 27th will in fact continue to stay open, while the PSP or PlayStation Portable's purchase functionality will cease to exist after July the 2nd. So with this news, a lot of people were wondering what this means for games they wish to purchase in the future, or what happens to games and content that they've already purchased through the PlayStation Store. So let's go ahead and break this down. First of all, physical copies of games for each of these consoles will still exist out there, but the prices of these games will go up once the digital stores close down. That's because the primary market for these titles will cease to exist. These games basically become scarce at that point. So in other words, stores that have physical copies of games, which is to say the secondary market, can start charging you a lot more for those same games. So then what can you do? Well, if there's games you still wish to purchase from the digital store, now is your chance. But there's no point going on a buying frenzy, because don't forget that there's always a chance that these games tend to become available for newer consoles as either direct ports or even remakes or remasters. But obviously, this probably won't happen for every single game, but we've seen in the past that developers and publishers tend to bring back older titles to newer consoles from gamer demands. Next, let's go over what happens to content or games that you've bought in the past through the PlayStation Store. So in the future, if Sony does decide to kill off purchases for any more PlayStation consoles, there are 5 things that you will always be entitled to. First of all, if you've bought a game, add-on, or any kind of DLC through the PlayStation Store, keep in mind that it's still yours permanently, and that's not going away at all. Number 2, even though the stores may shut down, you can still continue to download the games and content that you already own. Provided you have access to your PSN account, internet, and the PlayStation device, pretty much everything should be saved to your library and can be accessed anytime and as many times as you need to download it. Number 3, all the vouchers or codes that you haven't yet used will still be redeemable. So for example, if the PSP store shuts down today, I can still use my code to redeem content from that store indefinitely. And number 4, multi-platform cross-buy purchases will still be honored even after the stores are closed. So in other words, if you've bought a game for your PS4 that was also cross-buy for both the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita, you can still download these copies for each of those devices. And number 5, you can still download games that you've got for free via the PlayStation Plus subscription at any time, provided that your membership is still active. So now let's go over the why. What was the reason for PlayStation to think about cutting the cables from stores for these older devices? Well, the answer is actually in the question. Clearly, it's difficult for them to keep up with the PS4 and PS5 demands if they still offer support and maintenance for the PlayStation 3, PS Vita, and the PlayStation Portable. In fact, you may have noticed that problems in general have increased with the PlayStation Store these last couple of years. So for example, PSN downtimes are usually a huge mess when they do happen, but aside from that, I was never a fan of the web version of the PlayStation Store. Navigating around the UI, for instance, is not that snappy when it comes to performance. In fact, even on the PS4, I was oftentimes blocked from getting the PSN Store to fully open after turning it back on from rest mode. So at some point, I just became used to restarting the PS4 every time I wanted to purchase something digitally. I do, however, like what they've been doing with the store on the PS5 thanks to the global search that you can do with games from the home screen. Plus, it's sort of easier to use as well. So overall, it's nice that Sony decided to cancel the shutdown for at least the PS3 and the PS Vita, but don't expect these to stick around for the long haul. My hope is that Sony can focus on improving the digital stores for the PS4 and PS5, since they would be dropping the sort of baggage from having to maintain support for all these older devices in the future. Thanks for watching, and for more on the PlayStation and gaming updates in general, please consider subscribing to this channel.